Well, we've made it to Friday. Welcome in another edition of Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour, leading you into McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Appreciate you joining us all throughout the week here. We have made it to another weekend, and a big weekend it will be. You've got the variety is the spice of life, right? So you've got the NBA playoffs, you've got Major League Baseball, you've got SEC baseball, some big series for both Alabama and Auburn and also other places across the league. You've got golf, got the PGA Championship going on at Quail Hollow right now. You've got the Stallions coming up tomorrow there in St. Louis. You've got just so many options, so many things that will be going on this weekend. We'll tell you about every single one of those, as well as recap some things that you may have missed yesterday in the world of sports. And of course, we're going to do our Mount Rushmore for the SEC, and Damian in good spirits this morning. Clearly, he understood the assignment, and you will not be surprised to know that he is wearing orange today. So if you missed the show yesterday, we told you that we were going to be doing the Tennessee Volunteers for our Mount Rushmore today. So thought that would be a fun way to end the week, because as we all know, Damian is probably the biggest Tennessee fan in the city of Birmingham, to say the least.
Where did that come from?
That's what
Tennessee Titans, absolutely.
that's just the word on the street.
Oh,
Is that you're the biggest Tennessee fan
interesting.
in the Birmingham area.
I thought my fandom was up for recruitment. Or at least this year it is.
Well, until you make a decision, maybe, once you make a decision, maybe that, we'll
That'll
kind of go away.
alleviate some of those
Yeah, but
worries. I got
you have a reputation. You're the Tennessee guy.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. That's right. So we are going to get to those. Of course, you already know it. Our guy Lewis, he's already sent in his Mount Rushmore for the Tennessee Volunteers, but we want you to send in yours as well. 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the courtesy GMC text line, where you can send in your Mount Rushmores. We will read them and react to them later in the show, as we have done every day here for now about 2 weeks now. So we are, I guess this makes 9, Damian. So it'll be our 9th SEC school left to do. So that means we have 7 more to go. So we will do that all of next week. Then we'll get into the week after that of Memorial Day. And then we will start going into some blue bloods and taking a look at programs outside of the SEC, because y'all seem to really be enjoying this series, and we enjoy doing it. We enjoy the conversation, and it's fun to kind of go down memory lane and remember a lot of the our favorite players from a lot of the biggest programs in the country. So love the SEC Mount Rushmore series. Going to get back to that. Tennessee Volunteers coming up today. A little bit later in the show, we'll let you know what we're going to be doing on Monday. But we do have a lot of things that were going on last night to keep you abreast of. So why don't we start off in SEC baseball country, because you do have 2 big series going on right now for Alabama and Auburn. You have Auburn there on the road in Oxford, Mississippi. Things looking good for Auburn, just based on their resume up to this point in terms of hosting a regional, and as far as seeding goes in Hoover for next week. But still, you want to end the season on a high note. Auburn's been on a streak lately. They've been one of the hottest teams in the entire country, but unfortunately last night, not their night for the Tigers, as the Ole Miss Rebels pull out the 9-2 victory over the Auburn Tigers there in Oxford last night. So unfortunately, not the way that you wanted to start the weekend if you're the Auburn Tigers, but the good news is you do have 2 games left, so you can still take that series and end the season on a high note. But nonetheless, a rough night last night there for Auburn against Ole Miss. You do also have the Alabama Crimson Tide. They were in action last night as they were taking on the Florida Gators down there in Gainesville, Florida. And early on, it was looked like it was going to be a strong showing for Alabama. You had Justin LeBron adding a home run early on to make it 3-0 at one point early on in this game. Alabama had a 6-5 lead going into the 7th inning, and then unfortunately Florida gets up to the plate. They hit a 2-run home run to go up 7-6 in the 7th, and that would be all that she wrote there. So Florida takes one over Alabama, and Alabama having an excellent season as well, but this series may be a little more important for them in terms of whether or not they would host a regional. As it stands right now, they are projected to be one of those top 16 teams that would host a regional, but a loss in this series to Florida maybe puts a little bit of a damper on that. And of course, we'll have to see what they are able to do next week in Hoover as the SEC baseball tournament will get underway here next Tuesday from Hoover. But as I said, for both Alabama and Auburn, you've got two more opportunities coming up for you this weekend. So that is certainly good news. As far as that goes, if you're Auburn, you're going to have first pitch tonight, 6 p.m. over there on the SEC Network, SEC Network Plus. That's how you'll be able to catch up with the Auburn Tigers. And Alabama, they're going to be 5:30 on the SEC Network Plus. So Auburn on the regular SEC Network, Alabama on SEC Network Plus. Some other things that you had last night. You had South Carolina taking on LSU. And as we all know, been a rough season for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Just not really the season that they were hoping to have, especially after they went out and hired Paul Mainieri, the former legendary, former LSU coach, actually, who won a College World Series there, has had a great deal of success in the SEC, but he goes to South Carolina. They're struggling. Things are not going well. Now they have to go up and play LSU, who is the one of the best teams in the entire country right now. And South Carolina walks it off on a wild pitch against LSU. So a game that the Tigers probably had no expectation of losing, Damian. They do lose, in fact, on a walk-off home run to their former head coach.
Yeah, and it's kind of unique for South Carolina to be in this situation. It feels as though, you sacrifice so much during the football season that the rest of your sports kind of hadn't really held the same bar, hadn't been to the same standard. But getting a win in the SEC, and especially for LSU, when you're trying to get ready for postseason play, it's just kind of one of those punches in the gut. Just man, okay, there's still some things we need to work on. And baseball is such a different sport. You can kind of watch this one, but as far as building some momentum heading into the SEC tournament and also the College World Series potentially and things like that, you kind of want to have all your ducks in a row, to say the least.
Absolutely. So big win for South Carolina last night. They walk it off against the number one team in the country on a wild pitch. And then you also had Texas knocking off their rival, the Oklahoma Sooners, 7-4 last night. The reason that's significant is because with that win, Texas has now clinched at least a share of the SEC regular season title for baseball. The only other team that could tie them would be Arkansas, but Arkansas would have to win their next two games because they lost to Tennessee last night. So they would have to win their last two regular season games. Texas would have to lose their last two, and then you would have a split. But Texas, if they just win one of these last two, they're going to be the SEC regular season champions. So congratulations to the Longhorns, I suppose, as they continue to have a lot of success early on in their tenure here in the SEC. So that's what went on in the world of SEC baseball last night. You did also have the Atlanta Braves here on JOX 94.5, or actually, JOX 100 to 100.5, because they played the early game yesterday, so they were on while we were on the air for three-man front. But Atlanta, they get back to their winning ways. They find themselves back at 500 now, 22-22 overall, with a 5-2 win over the Nats there. So they take 3 of 4 from the Nationals here in this series. Smith Shawver, solid last night. He goes 6 innings, gives up no earned runs, 1 unearned run, but no earned runs, only 2 hits, strikes out 6. So he was excellent last night for the Atlanta Braves. But you had just a little bit of everybody contributing last night. You have Allen. He started things off with an RBI single. Verdugo with an RBI single. Baldwin continues to hit it. And he had an RBI single. You had Azuna come in, hit a sac fly. And so Abrams, the only one doing any damage for the Nationals as he drove in both of their runs. But Atlanta, again, now taking 3 of 4 from the Washington Nationals. They are 22-22 on the season. They find themselves 6 games back of the New York Mets. And I promise you, Mets fans, we will try our best to help you out because my Yankees are hosting the New York Mets in the Bronx this weekend. So going to be a big series, and a big series for a lot of people this weekend because you have your rivalry series. So, for example, you've got the Yankees and the Mets. You've got the White Sox and the Cubs. You've got the Athletics and the Giants. So you've got a lot of those regional rivalries that are going to be going on this weekend. So it should be a fun weekend of Major League Baseball. But for the Atlanta Braves, they are on the road at Boston. So they're going to take on the Boston Red Sox. So, hey, you scratch our back, we'll scratch your back. The Braves can take out the Red Sox for my team, and my team can take out the Mets for the Braves. It'll work out great for all of us, hopefully. But that's going to be a 6:10 first pitch tonight here on JOX 94.5. So that's everything going on in the world of Major League Baseball. Very quickly, we will give you an update on the PGA Championship round one yesterday there in Charlotte, North Carolina at Quail Hollow. And so you had I'll just go ahead and tell you, you're going to have a leaderboard. If you do not watch a lot of golf, which I will admittedly say, I do not watch a lot of golf outside the major championships. Not a lot of familiar names at the top of this leaderboard.
Nope.
So a rough day for a lot of the who's who of the PGA world. But you have Jonathan Vegas, who is currently atop the leaderboard. He shot a 7 under 64 yesterday. So he is atop your leaderboard. You've got Cam Davis. He's there tied for second at 5 under, along with an American, Ryan Gerard. Then you've got Luke Donald, Aaron Rye, Ryan Fox, Alex Smalley, Steven Yeager, all of them at tied for 4 under. Then you've got Tyrell Hatton at 3 under there, tied for 9th. And you have to go down a ways before you're going to start getting to some of these more recognizable names. You've got Adam Scott there. He's 2 under. Victor Hovland, he's 2 under. Scotty Scheffler sitting there at 2 under. Morikawa 1 under. So definitely a tough day for, a lot of the bigger names on the tour. John Rahm, he's 1 under. Bryson DeChambeau's even after the first day. So certainly some ground for them to make up. But currently, Jonathan Vegas, your leader there in the clubhouse after the first round at Quail Hollow. And so they will get underway here. Actually, some guys about to tee off right now as it stands. So you're going to have Cam Davis, who's in second place right now at 5 under. It looks like he's going to get us started in just a minute. So that's what's going on there in the world of the PGA. And there's an interesting story that came out yesterday, and it involves a little bit of everything from the college football or the football world, excuse me. You get some NFL, some college, heck, even the UFL was thrown into this conversation. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a new book coming out, and one of the main topics of this book is going to be Caleb Williams, the former USC quarterback, and kind of his NFL draft process and what it was like for him when it became apparent he was going to likely be drafted by the Chicago Bears, and how his family and himself maybe tried to manipulate the situation at first, and some potential considerations that they maybe made for his playing career that would not have involved the NFL. A very fascinating story, some very fascinating details in here for the Chicago Bears quarterback. And it just kind of, just the fact that it encompasses every level of football that we know and love here in the city of Birmingham. It's a very interesting story. Some very interesting details coming out there. So when we come back here on Morning JOX, we're going to dive a little bit into that Caleb Williams story. What were they saying? How close were we to getting Caleb Williams, maybe being the quarterback for, I don't know, the Birmingham Stallions? That was something that was actually on the table a year ago. So we'll tell you all about that, dive a little bit more into that story. We're coming right back here on Morning JOX. 6:17. Welcome back in the Friday edition of Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell with you. Haven't heard this song in forever.
This is a banger.
Honestly forgot that this was a song. That's a good pull. Damian spinning the hits for you this morning as we recapped everything going on the diamond across both college and professional baseball. Rough night for both Alabama and Auburn as they fall on the road to Florida and Ole Miss, respectively. Braves do pick up a win last night, take the series 3-4 over the Nationals to get back to 500. They will now take a trip over to Boston to take on the Red Sox this weekend. So a big series there, opportunity for the Bravos to continue their hot streak. And the good news is it looks like Spencer Strider is going to be coming off of the injured list and be making a start next week. So we don't know exactly what day that's going to be for the Atlanta Braves, but you've gotten some good news this week with Ronald Acuna starting his rehab start, had a home run in his first at bat there. So he is close to coming back. And now it was announced yesterday that Spencer Strider will return sometime next week for the Atlanta Braves. So reinforcements are coming. Things are looking up if you are an Atlanta Braves fan. All right, quickly, last night you did have one game in the NBA postseason. You had the Denver Nuggets and the OKC Thunder. Denver pulls off the 119-107 win to force Game 7. So this has been the best series of the NBA postseason so far for my money. But a big performance last night from both Jokic and Jamal Murray. So Jokic gives you 29, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. Jamal Murray adds in 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists last night to lead the way there for Denver. Yeah, Christian Braun added 23 for the Nuggets as well. And as good as Shea is, he can't do it by himself. So Shea Gilgeous, he has 32 points last night, is his typical amazing self for OKC, and everybody else just kind of letting him down, unfortunately, last night. So we go to Game 7. It will be there in Oklahoma City, a big opportunity for, and remember, this is a Denver Nuggets team that fired their coach and their general manager like 4 days before the playoffs started. So again, just saying, this is a pretty spectacular run that they're on right now. And to even get them to a Game 7 against the best team in basketball this year, the Oklahoma City Thunder, is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I think Alabama's about to lose that interim tag once their season is done. I think what he's been able to do.
Guys seem to respond.
Yeah. And I mean, Jamal Murray was dealing with a sickness, still went out there and had a great performance. And I mean, if you're OKC, yeah, you get Game 7 at home, but it's difficult when you've got the Joker on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I had a feeling that, okay, if OKC was going to win it, they were going to have to do it yesterday, because now if you take that thing to Game 7 with a Denver Nuggets team that's pretty much just playing with house money, okay, yeah, they're like, if this is the last game that we're going to play, we almost didn't expect us to be in this situation anyway. Like a team like Denver with nothing to lose is that's a lot of pressure, even if you have the home court advantage.
No, absolutely. I mean, Game 7, I mean, all bets are off in that scenario, right? It really doesn't matter. So that should be an excellent game. That's going to come up on Sunday. So that'll be a 2:30 tip on ABC there on Sunday for Game 7. And you do have the other series going on there between the Celtics and Knicks. You're going to get Game 6 of that tonight. So if the Knicks win, they advance. They will face Indiana in the conference finals. If the Celtics win, we will get another Game 7. And that would come your way, I assume, on Monday. So that's what's going on in the world of the NBA playoffs. We are getting closer and closer to the NBA finals day by day. I want to remind you, we are going to do our Tennessee Mount Rushmore. That'll be coming up here in a handful of minutes. So you still have time to send yours in this morning, 205-834-9450. Who would you consider the greatest players in the history of Tennessee football? And you have a lot to choose from, so I'm very excited to see everyone's list and to get to react to those here coming up in just a little bit. But before the break, I told you that there's a new book coming out with a big focus on Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams and what went into kind of his entire draft process. So the book is going to be called American Kings, a biography of the quarterback, and it's authored by Seth Wickersham, who's done some work as a contributor for ESPN. And so he got to talk with Caleb Williams' dad, is my understanding, is that's where a lot of this information came from, that is ultimately going to be in the book. But generally, if you just want a gist of what was going on there, it essentially goes into how Caleb Williams was not happy, or his family was not happy with the prospect of him being drafted by the Chicago Bears. I think his dad said, "quote That's where quarterbacks go to die." Was the quote that they had there, and he didn't want to play for him. And in fact, he actually wanted to go and play for one of their rivals in the Minnesota Vikings. After meeting with Kevin O'Connell, he fell in love with that system, his mindset. And as we know, Kevin O'Connell, one of the best coaches in the NFL. And you saw what he did with Kirk Cousins. You saw what he did with Sam Darnold last year. So you just wonder what he could do with a guy like Caleb Williams as well. But obviously, the Bears weren't going to take too kindly to trading the number 1 overall pick to a division rival. And they had essentially told Caleb, hey, it doesn't matter where you want to go. We're taking you number 1. Sorry, big dog. You're our guy. Doesn't matter where you want to go. That's how this is going to go. And so essentially him and his dad, they kind of worked through the process. He wasn't convinced that that's where he ultimately wanted to go. But eventually he did come around to the idea of playing for the Chicago Bears. And as we know, he got drafted there last year. But during this whole process, it was mentioned that they had serious conversations about joining the UFL. So part of the book is going to dive into how Caleb Williams looked to kind of skirt around the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL. And one of the conversations that the family had, was with Archie Manning, and discussing the Eli Manning situation and how they went about that process when, if you remember, he was selected by the Chargers and he didn't want to play for the Chargers. And then he ended up getting traded to the Giants, and we know the rest is history for there. But they had a bunch of meetings with different lawyers and agents, and they had even strongly considered the UFL at one point, which would have allowed him to play 1 season in the NFL, and then he would have been technically an unrestricted free agent right now, so he would have been able to go wherever he chose. But ultimately, Caleb Williams did decide, hey, I'm going to be a Chicago Bear. I'm going to give this thing a shot. And so he did, and he went there last year, and I think, all things considered, he had a pretty solid rookie season. But if you were one of those people that said, man, Caleb Williams maybe doesn't look as good as we expected him to, that's because he didn't have any help. And another part of the book details his first year in Chicago and how he didn't have anybody watch film with him. He didn't have anybody breaking down film, telling him what to look for in the film, telling him what to expect from, I guess even just laying the groundwork for the opponent every week. He says he essentially just went in a film room, sat by himself, and turned on the tape and just watched. And that was it. And I know some people would say, well, shouldn't he know how to watch film on his own? And okay, yeah, I'm sure you could make a little bit of that argument, but at the same, you're transitioning from college to the NFL. You're the number 1 pick. You are the future of this franchise, and there's not a single person that wants to sit down with you and break down film, just to even just to pick your brain and ask you questions throughout the process and see, let's see, how does this guy break down film, right? Is he doing it the right way? Can we trust him to do it his way, or do we need to kind of get in here and let him know how things are done at the professional level? Nope, got none of that. And so I think that it just kind of explains a lot about, for example, why they fired their head coach, why Caleb Williams struggled at times last year, why they had 10 losses in a row at one point and didn't seem like they were improving. There's just a lot of very interesting details here, but the fact that we've talked about it and joked about it with some of these guys, but you had the number 1 overall pick that legitimately considered going and playing in the UFL to avoid being drafted by the Chicago Bears. Just a very interesting situation there, Damian, and certainly, I'll be honest, I don't read a ton of books in my free time, but this is definitely a book that I'll be interested in and probably be reading this.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And the thing about Caleb Williams, one, it's also very depressing as a Titans fan how we lost the first game of the season to a more dysfunctional franchise when they were dealing with these situations. But it's very eye-opening how he tried to skate the lengths in which he was willing to go to not go to Chicago, which is, to me, I look at it from this perspective. You're the number 1 overall pick. You know you're going to the worst team. You're going to the worst franchise. But also, we live in a society where, okay, we want everything to go your way. Dude, you jumped from Norman, Oklahoma to Los Angeles, California to follow Lincoln Riley. So to me, I think you got some pretty adequate, a more than above average quarterback coaching from a guy that just knows the quarterback position. So why not bank on your own talent of, hey, I mean, if Jay Cutler can go sit around and drink a six pack and go out there and throw for, I mean, he didn't throw for 4,000 yards, but he's thrown for 30, over 3,500 yards multiple seasons, and you're going to an organization where they are the big wigs are paid to make sure that the best product is going to be on the football field. Adding you to that makes the product better. So to me, it's kind of okay. So I understand that you're confident in yourself, but don't you think that you could be the missing piece that they're waiting on?
See, and that's kind of my thing is my mentality I like to think would be, oh, I can be the guy to fix that narrative. I can be the guy. And especially, and look, okay, I'm sorry, any Cleveland Browns fans out there, but I understand, right? If you don't want to go to the Cleveland Browns, I can understand that a little bit more. Still, I mean, if you're going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft, you should probably be pretty thankful for that and excited for the opportunity. But for a franchise like the Bears, that, I mean, historically relevant, one of the more, I would say, historically relevant franchises in all of professional football. And we know what their history is with quarterbacks, but you can go to Chicago and be that guy that breaks the mold. You could go down as the best quarterback potentially in Chicago Bears history from a statistical standpoint at the very least. You could potentially, what if you lead them to a championship, right? Like what you are going to be a legend in the city of Chicago for the rest of your life. And maybe he doesn't care about stuff like that, but I don't know. I just feel like the competitive side of you, that would be an angle you would go, okay, yeah, no, all these other guys couldn't do it because they're not me, right? I'm better than them. I'm the one that can do it.
Yeah, and to think that you thought that Chicago was going to trade the number one overall pick to Minnesota.
Yeah,
that means Justin Jefferson's coming to us. You thought you're going to get paired back up with Addison. Nah, we'll take him as well. The absolute just castle breaking that they would have to do if that was going to happen. And I mean, in the long run, you end up getting JJ McCarthy, but he goes down to injury. But you got Sam Darnold too, and again, Kevin O'Connell knows how to coach the quarterback position. And to me, I think that if you're Caleb, this isn't probably the best publicity you want, going into year 2. Where, like, if I'm a teammate, it's, dang, bro, we have to convince you this hard just for you to be our quarterback. Like, we rocking with you, man. I understand that, the offensive line was atrocious. He got sacked 68 times. But, again, if you are as talented as the organization looks at you as, I would feel honored. No matter where it is, yep. You're one of 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That's exactly how I would look at it of, all right, yeah, I can come in and help change this program, help change this organization. But to say that, you're trying to work around the collective bargaining agreement, play in the UFL of all places, and I mean, as the Stallions and you see the quarterback room that we've had, I mean, I wouldn't be upset if Caleb wouldn't come down here.
No, he would have lit it up. It would have been great.
Yeah, but nah, man, just not everything has to be a business decision.
Well, no.
Just go when your name is called, go there and play.
Well, and heaven forbid, what if you go to the UFL and you get hurt and then
you damage goods when you get into the big leagues?
Exactly. So I will say I do think that his family, they kind of overthought this situation because all they had to do was put a gas mask on him and put it on social media, and
that would have made him drop to
Minnesota.
Then
he would have dropped. He could have gone to the Vikings, but
then Bo Nix would have been number one overall pick.
I'd say you got to work smarter, not harder, guys. Come on.
Think about it.
Let's go back through past what's worked in the past. Hey, Laramie Tunsil, as far as I know, he's made a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
He's been a heck of a football player. I think that worked out just fine for him. Maybe it would have worked out for Caleb too. Who knows? I say that jokingly. But that's what's going on with this new book coming up about Caleb Williams. Just some very fascinating details. This was kind of the big story that was going around, at least the football world yesterday. Caleb Williams almost played in the UFL, but now he is the Chicago Bears, and it all works out, right? Because now he's got Ben Johnson as his head coach, and it looks like things are going to be much better there in Chicago moving forward. All right, going to take a quick break, come back on the other side. It is time. Our Mount Rushmore series continues on this Friday. It's time for the Tennessee Volunteers. Who are Damien's favorite Tennessee players? He's the biggest Tennessee fan in the Birmingham area. Who are his 4 favorite Tennessee players of all time? He'll tell you next on Morning JOX. 6:36. Welcome back in. Morning JOX here on your Friday morning, getting you set up for McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, coming your way from 7 to 10, then three-man front 10 to 2, and of course, the Paul Feinbaum show from 2 to 6. And after that, you're going to have Braves and Red Sox baseball. Quick reminder, you do have the Stallions in action tomorrow at noon. You'll be able to catch that game as they travel up to St. Louis to take on the Battlehawks. So another big opportunity here for the Stallions coming off that miraculous comeback, as Skip Holtz told us on Three Man Front earlier in the week. It is his wife dubbed it the Mother's Day Miracle. So that is
like that.
That's what we're calling it. And so now we get to go and head to St. Louis and attempt to take on the Battlehawks as the hunt for the four-peat continues there for the Stallions. All right. It's time, our favorite part of the day, each and every day now on Morning JOX, our SEC Mount Rushmore. So if you're just now joining us, me and Damian, we are going through. We will give you our Mount Rushmores for each SEC program, all 16 of them. This is day number 9 for us. So we have 7 left to go. We'll get to those over the next 2 weeks. But today we're doing the Tennessee Volunteers. And tomorrow, or not tomorrow, excuse me, on Monday, I thought we could do Arkansas.
Let's go.
Arkansas, I think there. If you think off the top of your head, maybe that's not going to be a good one. There's a lot of really good players in Arkansas history. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. But today we're going to do Tennessee. And so I will start off, and then Damian will share here. Actually, you know what? No. Damian, you're going to start us off because you are, as I have said, if you missed it, the biggest Tennessee fan in the Birmingham area. So who is on your Tennessee Mount Rushmore, Damian?
Well, after doing some digging, man, this is the closest feeling to Christmas, man. It really is. It's it's very honored. I couldn't wait.
Is it all Josh Heupel guys?
No,
okay.
Believe it or not.
Okay,
believe it or not. There's some tributes to the past. I will say this, but to start off my Mount Rushmore for the Tennessee Volunteers, I got to start with number 1. That would be Peyton Manning, the sheriff. Mm-hmm. You know, his career lasted a lot longer than his time in Tennessee. He had success in Tennessee and only matriculated to the NFL as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Number 2 for me, I have the Minister of Defense, Reggie White. Just pull up the tape. All I got to say. You want to talk about, again, success that just continued on. Of course, you know, he died early on, so we never really got a chance to see, but we saw on the field as far as how great that he was.
Absolutely.
Number 3 for me, before there was the Honey Badger at LSU, there was one in Tennessee by the name of Eric Berry, number 14. You want to talk about a guy that was always around the football on the defensive side. I mean, you look up, he's playing defensive end, and next thing you know, after you play fake, he's back there in coverage, and if you put it anywhere near his receiver, his helmet may come off. But to round it off, of course, one of the reverends in the Heupel discipleship, it would be one Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker rounds out my Tennessee Mount Rushmore because when you look at this resurgence that Tennessee has had, it started back technically in 2021. You had to build the foundation, had to get the building fund up. And then in 2022, it absolutely took off with the arm of one Hendon Hooker. And if you have seen the quarterback position since Hendon Hooker has left Tennessee, you really start to appreciate what he has done. So my Mount Rushmore for Tennessee football goes Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Eric Berry, Hendon Hooker. Also honorable mention. You can say whatever you want, but the man he played school and football. That would be one Josh Dobbs and also Albert Haynesworth and Alvin Kamara.
All right, those are all good ones there. I always forget about Albert Haynesworth until we do something like this. I'm like, oh, that's where.
Yeah. You think about all the money that he took from, various franchises.
Oh, yeah, particularly Washington. But, yeah, no, that's a great list right there. Okay, so I was going to put Reggie White on mine because, again, that's one of those guys that, wow, he is before my time and Damian's time. He's such a legendary player. Like, we've all seen highlights of Reggie White. We all know what he was capable of doing. But to keep it in trend with what we've been doing or what I've been doing with my list, I didn't put Reggie White on my actual list because, I've had to go back and watch his highlights, right? I didn't actually watch him play in, any real meaningful game action. It's just going back and watching highlights. So he's on my honorable mentions before you get mad at me for not having him on my list. So my Mount Rushmore, obviously got to go Peyton Manning, the greatest Tennessee Volunteer of all time, and one of the greatest football players just ever to walk the earth. So Peyton Manning, he would be number 1 for me. I also have Eric Berry on my list, one of the greatest defensive backs in modern SEC history, in my opinion, and certainly one of the very first people I think of when I think of the Tennessee Volunteers. So instead of Reggie White, I threw in Derek Barnett.
Hey.
And Derek Barnett, a dude that he was, if I remember, like the number one overall recruit coming out of high school, or very, very high up there. He had all the hype in the world coming to Tennessee, and all he did was have double-digit sacks in every season that he played for the Tennessee Volunteers. He is their all-time leader over Reggie White when it comes to career sacks. He had 10 sacks, 13 sacks. Pretty good career there, if you ask me, for the Tennessee Volunteers. So I have Peyton Manning, Eric Berry, Derek Barnett. And this one is tough, and I will admit, a little bit of this one carries over to his NFL career because he didn't have the craziest numbers at Tennessee, but he was still really, really good. And that would be Jason Witten. So, because I was trying to go pass catcher, and look, I like Jalen Hyatt, what he did, but I have so much PTSD from him scoring 700 million touchdowns against Alabama in that one game that I decided to go with Jason Witten. So I think Jason Witten, he played 3 years there at Tennessee, and obviously one of the best tight ends the game's ever seen. So that would be my list: Peyton Manning, Eric Berry, Jason Witten, and Derek Barnett. So
that's a good one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I also had honorable mention. I thought about Kamara, but then I remembered that Arian Foster went to Tennessee, and Arian Foster was that dude. So he put up some big time numbers there. I think you could also probably throw Dylan Sampson in that conversation.
He's definitely in the.
I know it's recent, and people, oh, well, that's recency bias. Well, he has a single season rushing record for Tennessee, and he's very high up there in their all time leading rushers as well. So a lot of great names to pick from. And I mean, this is without getting, I know there's a lot of, other guys from the past that we're going to hear about, your Bobby Majors of the world, guys like that. So continue to send yours in 205-834-9450. A bunch of you have already done so. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back real quickly on the other side, get your reaction, your Mount Rushmores for the Tennessee Volunteers. That's all coming up here on JOX 94.5.
6:48 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Been having some fun with your Tennessee Mount Rushmore. A lot of people not a big fan of Rocky Top being played at 6 o'clock in the morning, but hey, listen, I've played the fight song for every single team, and that's the most iconic song for the University of Tennessee. But keep them coming in, 205-834-9450. Let me tell you about our friends at Blue Chew. It's an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and Staxin in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets are a performance enhancement for the bedroom. It can help men gain extra confidence when it's time to perform. Like I said, it's an online prescription service, so you don't have to worry about going to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy because it ships right to your door. Let Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. I can still hook you up for the freezy, y'all. Free. Free. That spells free. Go to bluechew.com and get your first month free when you use our promo code JOX. That's JOX at checkout. The only thing you're going to have to pay for is the $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code JOX to receive your first month absolutely free. And like I tell you every single day, just chew it and do it.
All right, getting to your Tennessee Mount Rushmores here in just a second, but quickly, some Alabama basketball news for you. USC guard Desmond Claude is in the transfer portal, and he will be in Tuscaloosa for a visit this Sunday. So he's a 6'6" guard, averaged just under 16 points a game for the Trojans last year. So that could be the replacement for LeBaron Philon, who we now know is not coming back to Alabama. So just a little bit of update on what's going on with the basketball teams across the state. But now we take you to the courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450, where a bunch of you have chimed in this morning. I also have to apologize. Lewis, you did text in at 6 a.m. as always, and we appreciate it. But we actually have a new leader today. Our buddy Don actually chimed in at 5:45 with his list this morning. So he was ready to go. So Don says his Tennessee Mount Rushmore would be Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Condridge Holloway, and Peerless Price. All right.
Okay.
Like it? We got Mike Jones.
Ooh.
Mike Jones. He says Peyton Manning, Johnny Majors, Reggie White, and T. Martin would be on his Mount Rushmore. All right. Dave, he goes T. Martin, Peerless Price, Reggie White, Peyton Manning. All right. Very good list there. Smokey from Jasper, he goes Peyton Manning, Carl Pickens, Eric Berry, and Al Wilson. Another very good list there. Jamari from Talladega, he goes Peyton Manning, Jalen Hyatt, Jason Witten, and Alvin Kamara. He also adds, I wonder how it would have been if he had stayed at Alabama, RTR. Well, there is a reason that he did not stay at Alabama. But he certainly turned out to be perfectly fine anyways. And yeah, he's been exceptional, especially with the New Orleans Saints. Let's see. Somebody else, Tyler from Huntsville, he goes Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Eric Berry, and a clone of Peerless Price, Joey Kent, and Carl Pickens. Okay, well. Yeah, if you could combine all three of them. He says honorable mentions go to Johnny Majors, and Bobby Dodd, and certainly not that guy named Phil. You know, don't know if there are a lot of people that are going to have Phil on his list.
No.
We know Pat Smith certainly won't. If you haven't heard that story, you are missing out. All right, Cliff, he chimes in. He goes Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Steve DeLong, Eric Berry. He says honorable mentions go to Willie Galt and Carl Pickens. All right. Some good lists there. Eric in Adamsville. He goes Peyton Manning, Peerless Price, Reggie White, and one we haven't heard yet, a good one, Jamal Lewis.
Man.
Certainly one of the best running backs in Tennessee history.
Tote that thing.
Absolutely. Heck of an NFL career as well. And then he goes Heath Schuler and Willie Galt for honorable mentions. Let's see. Bobby chimes in. He goes, the Mount Rushmore for Tennessee should be Jonathan Crompton 3 times and then incompetence once. Okay. All right. So see how you feel. Pickleback, he chimes in. He goes Peyton Manning, Jamal Lewis, Joey Kent, Albert Hainsworth. All right. I'm surprised. Yeah, you and him, the only two to mention Hainsworth so far. I'm sure we'll get him again, but let's see. John chimes in. Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Eric Berry, Kamara. All right. Another good list there. Tennessee Mount Rushmore, Reggie White, Peyton Manning, Eric Berry, and Arian Foster. That comes from Sky. Appreciate you chiming in this morning, Sky. Let's see. We have Reggie White, Peyton Manning, Alvin Harper, and Carl Pickens. Okay. I don't know if that was supposed to be Alvin Kamara and that auto corrected for you. Let's see. Someone goes Peyton Manning, Nico Iamaleava, T. Martin, Squirrel White, and Paul Feinbaum.
Squirrel White already getting. He's a Florida State Seminole. I don't remember his time.
He bleeds orange.
No.
Let's see. Cody chimes in. He goes Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Eric Berry, and nobody else because everybody from Tennessee outside of those three suck unbearably. He then adds, "Oh man, I forgot about Jason Witten until you mentioned him. Yeah, throw him up there as well." So there's 4, and then everyone else sucks, I guess. Houston, he chimes in. Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Eric Berry, Jalen Hyatt. Honorable mention for him goes to Arian Foster. All right, appreciate you chiming in. Somebody says, shout out to Vestavia's own Will Brooks, who had the interception off Jalen Milroe when Tennessee beat Alabama this year.
You bet he did.
He certainly did. Certainly did. Our buddy Bennett, he chimes in. He goes, Josh Dobbs, Hendon Hooker, Peyton Manning, Jalen Hyatt.
Oh, he's young.
He is.
He's young.
I thought that was going to be your list, honestly.
No.
Drake chimes in. He goes, Peyton Manning, T. Martin, Eric Berry, and Travis Henry. All right. Good list there, Drake. Appreciate you chiming in. Let's see. Thomas chimes in and says, hey, you guys had great choices for your Tennessee Mount Rushmores. A few other names I wanted to throw out. Willie Gault, Jamal Lewis, Al Wilson, Conridge Holloway, Carl Pickens, and John Henderson. Appreciate that, Thomas. Gavin says, just remember, Damian, nothing sucks like a big orange.
Oh. Okay.
People are coming at you this morning.
I see.
But he goes Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Condridge Holloway, and Eric Berry. Bobby, he chimes in. He goes the Sheriff, Alvin Kamara, Eric Berry, and Hendon Hooker.
Yes, sir.
I wish the Saints would trade for Hendon Hooker.
Hey.
That'd be interesting. Let's see. Someone needs to put some respect on the specialist and add some of them to the list.
No.
Sorry.
No.
Dave from Winfield, Peyton Manning, Reggie White, Eric Berry, Peerless Price. I could not put Philip Fulmer on there because that would only leave room for one player. That was awesome. That is a great list. And then we have someone else chiming in. They go Peyton Manning, Condridge Holloway, Johnny Majors, and Eric Berry. So great list from all of y'all today with the Tennessee Volunteers. We're back here Monday morning, Reaction Monday, 6 a.m., the Arkansas Razorbacks. That'll be our task on Monday. Spend the weekend brainstorming it. Have a great weekend, everybody. McElroy and Kubick in the morning.